My name is Debargha, and the paper that I will be presenting today is about design choices for communication interfaces that allow self-driving cars to interact with pedestrians. As automated driving technology progresses, the control of the vehicle no longer lies with the human driver. In this context, it is no longer possible for a road user, pedestrian, to look inside the car for confirmatory cues such as gestures or eye contact, as they would normally do with the driver of an ordinary car. In order to bridge this communication gap, a typically proposed solution is some sort of an external human-machine interface, or eHMI. eHMIs can relay information about the automated vehicle's intentions in traffic. Among the various eHMI concepts, the light band is a rather popular choice. By light band, I mean a strip of light that is attached to the front of a car, either on the bumper or the windshield. In this slide, you see several examples from recent work of automated vehicle eHMI concepts that have used light band eHMI. However, the existing concepts differ in their own visions. Their colors vary from yellow, green, magenta, white, and cyan, while they activate with different animations, ranging from filling up sideways to blinking and pulsating. We currently do not have consensus regarding which design choices should be made. In order to avoid ambiguity, we need a systematic approach towards standardization of colors and animations, particularly from a user-centered design perspective. So why do colors and animations matter? Currently, lights of different colors with different animations are used diversely to communicate in traffic situations. The red, amber, and green lights are standard for traffic lights all over the world. The use of blue lights is common in emergency vehicles. Red lights are used for brakes. Turn indicators can be red or amber depending on where you are. In the context of right-of-way negotiation, red is commonly understood to indicate stop, and green is associated with the message of go. The use of lights of certain colors are prohibited from implementation in the front of a vehicle for regulatory reasons. The research community in general has started to gravitate towards turquoise or cyan or a shade of blue-green as a color of choice for eHMI, but we do not yet know how pedestrians react to it. Speaking of animations, different kinds of animations can be seen in lights in traffic. Emergency vehicles commonly use flashing or rotating lights. Turn signals of cars blink or even animate sideways in some newer cars. Drivers are often known to flash their headlights to communicate with other road users. These practices are learned, and the ways lights are used in communication clearly have a social aspect to them. So it is an interesting question, what makes sense for an automated vehicle to communicate that it is yielding to another road user, particularly a pedestrian? So in this study, we explored which kind of color or animation on a light band eHMI makes the most sense from a user-centered design perspective. So we conducted a survey study to investigate this. The study was conducted with 400 participants. We hosted the survey on the Survey Gizmo tool and distributed it over Amazon's Mechanical Turk platform. We tested different colors and animation patterns, as well as the way the car communicated its yielding message, which I will show in a moment. We showed the stimuli to the participants and asked them to rate the intuitiveness of each stimulus on a 5-point Likert scale. At the end of the study, we also asked them to write a few words on their own subjective perception of what they found intuitive or unintuitive about a certain stimulus. So in the experiment, we had 3 independent variables. The first variable was the nature of the yielding message. A yielding automated vehicle may negotiate its intention with pedestrians in one of 2 ways. First, by announcing its own intention or action, such as by saying, "I'm yielding." Or second, by instructing or advising an action to the pedestrians, for instance by saying, "Please cross." The research community is fairly united in the recommendation that an automated vehicle should not issue an advice or an instruction to others in traffic. But we do not know whether there are subtle differences between how an advice or a simple intention announcement is perceived by pedestrians. So, although the message for both ways of communication are the same in principle, we still wanted to investigate if a certain color or animation makes more intuitive sense for a certain flavor of communication. The second independent variable was the color of the light band eHMI. We evaluated 3 colors, green, cyan, and red. Cyan because we wanted to evaluate its efficacy in this context, particularly because it is trending as the color of choice for eHMIs in the research community. The green and the red colors were chosen because they are typically understood as colors for stop and go in traffic context. Although red and green are prohibited by law from being used in the front of a vehicle, we wanted to see if the association of stop and go with red and green stays valid from the context of a moving vehicle as opposed to a static infrastructure, and also where cyan fit in relation between the two. Finally, we had 5 different animation patterns. 2 of them were uniform patterns, by which I mean the entirety of the light band lit up together, which you see on the top row. We contrasted these with these uniform patterns with 3 sweeping patterns, which are shown in the bottom row. We showed each of the stimuli to the participants as you see here. The front view and the front 3/4 view of the car were shown side by side. We wanted to give the participants an unobstructed view of the entire eHMI, hence the front view, and we also wanted to present them with the perspective of what they would actually see as a pedestrian waiting to cross the road at the pavement. So, onto the results. This graph gives an overview of how the different colors and animations played into the sense of intuitiveness for a yielding message from the car to the participants. On the y-axis, the score of 1 maps to a completely unintuitive nature of a stimulus, and 5 maps to completely intuitive. And on the x-axis, we have the 5 different animation patterns we tested. We see that across the board, the green eHMI color scored as a pretty intuitive choice, while the red scored as a rather unintuitive choice for an eHMI when the car is trying to say that it's yielding. Cyan sat squarely between the two throughout. So clearly, the eHMI color had a significant effect in driving the intuitiveness of a yielding message to a pedestrian. When we looked at the interaction between the eHMI color and the nature of the message, we found that this interaction was statistically significant as well. The intuitiveness score for green in instruction condition was higher than in the intention condition. Correspondingly, the intuitiveness score of the red color was lower in the instruction condition compared to the intention condition. This indicates that the suggestive power of these 2 colors, green as an invitation to cross and red as a warning to not cross, are rather strong. While participants generally ascribe the same meaning in principle to each color in both the conditions, it shows that red and green also have a tendency to be associated more strongly with an instruction from the vehicle as opposed to a simple announcement of its intention. The main effect of animation was also statistically significant in both message conditions. The 2 uniform animation patterns, flash and pulse, scored better than the sweeping animation patterns. When we looked at the interaction between the animation and the message, we didn't find a significant difference, however. When we looked at the subjective feedback that the participants left while determining intuitiveness, we found some interesting insights. Firstly, an overwhelming majority of the participants commented that the colors green and red led them to make instinctive associations with go and stop, respectively. However, several participants remarked that for commonly used traffic light colors to be applied to a moving vehicle, they wouldn't know whether the notion of stopping or going would apply to the vehicle or to them as the pedestrian. This can lead to a fatal misunderstanding. Secondly, most participants showed some form of a strong bias towards red and green as colors, either from the perspective of the pedestrian or the car. However, cyan did not have a specific preference. Some participants noted that cyan can work to show yielding intention as a neutral color. Others remarked that in the absence of cyan in current traffic, they would not know yet what significance to attach to it. Thirdly, most participants noted that the color of the eHMI made a more significant conscious impact on their decision-making compared to the animation patterns. And lastly, among the participants for whom animation patterns did have an effect, several commented that uniformly changing patterns, such as flash or pulse, were preferable over the moving or sweeping patterns. The original idea behind exploring the sweeping animation patterns was that the sweeping motion could abstractly relate to a sweeping hand gesture from a driver, which would equate to an invitation to cross. However, with a few exceptions, this was not at all how the participants perceived it. So our results suggest that while red and green have immediate associations with stop and go, the meaning of these messages is not always clear and may lead to confusion. Cyan, on the other hand, is largely considered a neutral color and may thus be more suitable for communicating a yielding message. Yet another conclusion is that animation patterns do not have as much impact as colors in this communication, although uniform animation patterns may be more favorable than laterally sweeping ones. Given the fact that the role of color and animation for the design of eHMI is currently rather unexplored, we hope that our empirical insights may be helpful in the development and standardization of eHMI design for automated vehicles. I'll close by saying that I'm very sad to not be able to talk about this paper with you all at CHI in person this year. As a substitute, I would love to invite you to reach out to me or any of my co-authors. We would love to hear from you and continue the discussion. Thank you very much.